Welcome to another episode of Growth Hacker TV. I'm Bronson Taylor, and today I have Jeff Titterton with us. Jeff, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Sure, no problem.
I think people are going to be excited to hear all the things you've been involved with. You're currently the CMO of 99 Designs, a company that most people watching this are probably familiar with. And I want to get into your role there in just a moment. But first, I want to talk about some of your previous positions, because they were also at high-profile, kind of exciting companies. Before 99 Designs, you were the CMO at Zeusk. Is that correct?
VP of marketing, actually.
VP of marketing. Okay, sorry. So VP of marketing. So tell
Yep.
us real quick, what is Zeusk?
So Zeusk, when I joined, was known as the largest dating application on Facebook. This was when Facebook's platform was hugely viral and companies like Zynga were going insane. Zeusk has evolved a lot. In the time I was there, we evolved a lot and is now a much broader dating company that offers, has more than 100 million users. Who can date across a variety of different applications. They have some of the largest mobile apps. They have their Facebook dating application, which is still a very large part of their business, website, etc.
Yeah.
So it's dating from any platform.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting story how it started with Facebook, and I want to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
What kind of growth did you experience while you were there? I'm sure you can't share exact numbers, but maybe you can. I don't know.
Yeah, well, so the last number that the company publicly released when I was there was that the had reached a $90 million run rate. And that was after previously announcing $20 million in a couple of years before. So it grew a lot. It grew very, very quickly.
Yeah.
I was there for a couple of years. In the time I was there, our staffing, just to accommodate that growth, went from, I think I was employee 25 to we were well over 100 by the time I left.
Wow.
And part of that was that diversification. You go from being this really cool dating app on Facebook, which was really an idea started by two, I call them mad scientists. They're really cool guys, the two co-founders, to a product offered across all these different platforms in 25 different languages all over the world, running major TV campaigns and then a variety of other campaigns, just like it's a huge machine, one of the biggest dating sites in the world.
Yeah, that's cool. You said you went from 25 to 100. How many of those were under the VP of marketing?
We had a pretty big marketing team. I mean, so the company was, heavily product focused, of course. A lot of engineers because we had all those different platforms, and our founders were tech guys. But we had 25 people in the marketing team. Dating is an incredibly competitive industry. We all know this. So there's the big players like from the old days, Match.com, eHarmony, etc. Then there's the free players like OkCupid and Plenty of Fish. And so the good news about dating is there are a lot of customers.
Yeah.
There are
Almost everyone.
Almost everyone who's not married and who's over the age of 18 is looking to find someone, and it's a core life thing, right? It's food, shelter, finding someone to be with.
Hierarchy.
Yeah. The more challenging thing as a marketer in the dating industry is there are a lot of choices. And so you need to rise above the noise and get people to your site and help them understand why they should be on your site instead of other sites or in addition to other sites. Because in the dating industry, people tend to have multiple profiles.
Yeah. So what were your customer acquisition strategies? Where did most of the people come from? I know you mentioned Facebook. So what happened on Facebook with the growth there? And, basically, where were you guys getting your users?
Yeah, so we were a marketing machine, an acquisition machine. So there were two ways that we got users. So I'll start with the marketing side of the house, which was paid acquisition across a variety of channels. So we had experts in every channel. We had Facebook experts who bought just Facebook media. We had SEM experts. SEM's a really big thing in the dating industry. We had mobile experts who focused on iPhone and Android and iPad, obviously. And then we actually cross-referenced that with all different language experts. So we had people who focused on France, who were real kind of French native language experts. And we had that for all of our different countries. So that was a pretty big team. We then supplemented that. We had an offline team, and we focused on TV. And there's a reason we did TV. We're not crazy. So one of the big challenges in dating is getting women to trust the site. There's a lot of dating sites out there that have a very heavy number of male users and not enough female users. And while I wouldn't describe it as a two-sided marketplace like 99 Designs, to a certain extent it is a two-sided marketplace, right? For men and women.
Two different animals, two different creatures.
Two different creatures looking for each other. But you really need to have a good balance there. And the best way we found to get a lot of women to both come to the site and join, and also trust, and building trust was really important, was through TV. Because TV, as much as it's a very expensive medium and sort of a dying medium or an evolving medium that'll probably move online eventually entirely, it is a medium that still, people look at a TV ad and they say, oh, that's a real company, I can trust them.
It legitimizes it.
We did, yeah. And, coming from the startup world where I did, we hired people who had expertise in this, and we did a lot of brand awareness and brand recommendation surveys, and really found that TV was a big driver of people sharing, trusting the site, and then sharing that trust with their friends. And so that was really helpful kind of to build our brand awareness. Our brand awareness grew dramatically in that time. I wouldn't necessarily recommend TV for every brand. You need to have cash. You need to be able to afford that. You need a bigger consumer brand is probably the best way to use TV, because it's a challenging medium. You can't necessarily do micro-targeting that easily on TV. But you can do broad reach of like, I want to hit women 25 to 45. You can do that relatively cost effectively. But a lot of our spend was online. That company's known for their TV because we did some really fun TV commercials that went viral. But we also had a great deal of expertise in online media. So that was one side of the house, was really spending. We had an amazing BI system. One of our founders, Cheyenne, was a former BI engineer from Microsoft, which I highly recommend you have a CEO who's a former BI engineer.
Explain BI to me. What is that?
It's in business intelligence. So we built an amazing business intelligence system. We had a senior engineer who was devoted full-time to this. And this system allowed us to really slice and dice our data and really build ROI curves so that we could tell within 7 days how a campaign was going to track by day 360. Made our media buying much more efficient. And it's something that I've really brought here. I learned there at Zeusk, which was a really amazing learning experience for me. And I've really tried to bring that to 99 Designs, and we've implemented some similar stuff here, which I can talk about, that has been incredibly eye-opening and really helpful and helps a marketer do their job much more effectively. So I think the data side of marketing, we know this, of course, you run Growth Hacker TV, right? This is all about data. I'm a big believer in brand building, but I really think that marketing has to center around data. And so Zeusk had this data set that we could literally tell exactly, the demographics. We could slice and dice. We could look at refund rates. We could look at everything and understand just how profitable this campaign was. So we could do a lot of micro analysis. On the other side of the house, with product, Zeusk also was a very viral product, which is extremely rare in the dating industry. And that's, people don't share that they're on dating sites. And so we were supplemented a lot by a lot of the product side of the house. Early days, the virality was huge because Facebook really basically kept the wall open, and any dating apps could share, or any apps. You remember this, right? So the wall used to be a wall of Farmville shares and things like that. And Zeusk was right in there, and so we got a lot of shares and a lot of kind of viral loops working in our favor. That got closed off, but there's still enough there that continued to really benefit the brand and helped it grow quite a lot in a way that probably would not have been possible in a crowded dating market at that late date, unless you'd had that benefit of Facebook really pushing that.
I want to ask you a little bit more about BI, business intelligence. Is it a methodology? Is it an accreditation? Is it just a way of viewing the world? I mean, tell me kind of at a high level, because it's something that people haven't talked about on this program yet. So
Okay. Yeah, so the business intelligence system we built, they actually use Microsoft's tools. They have a business intelligence kind of product that they offer.
Is that where the name comes from? Is their product? Or is this the name of just anybody doing this?
Yeah, BI, business intelligence system, is really it's a broader term. A lot of bigger companies use these, and big brands, Proctors of the world. The startup world, of course, is always so busy just building products. They tend to just a little bit later. But essentially what it is it takes your data and it puts it into a data warehouse. So you're no longer querying off your live production system. Okay. And then you build a set of tools on top of that. And they can either be web-based. They can be, in our case, we were doing pivot tables in Excel. And that allows you to, every morning that data refreshes. And you can pull that data into a variety of reports and slice and dice that data to death. Okay. And so we built standard reports for country, et cetera. And this is something, Zeusk is amazing at, again, that we're doing here as well. And that all companies should be doing, frankly. Yeah. But, it's hard. You have to invest in it. It's a lot of work to invest in this kind of system. Yeah. You have to make sure it's something you identify as a must-do. But it makes your marketers be much more effective.
Yeah. Those pivot tables, are you guys creating those from scratch, or is that something Microsoft is kind of building into their product? How much engineering does it take to do BI at the level you guys were doing it, or was it just kind of a ready-made turnkey application for Microsoft? You know what I mean?
It was not ready-made turnkey. It was we did a lot of engineering work, and our head of online marketing, Roman Gawazi, did a lot of work. He's a statistician and did a lot of work to implement that and QA it and make sure it was right. And it's something they should definitely be really proud of, because it's a core strength of theirs. Yeah. I think that here at 99 Designs, and if you don't mind me pivoting to talk about...
Please.
So at 99, what we've built is a source attribution system. And what that means is when... I'm not sure how familiar you are with this, but essentially what we're looking at is we want to know where our users are coming from, obviously. And more importantly, where our paying users are coming from. Is like every small company, every startup, we want to understand what's driving the actual adoption of our product. A lot of startups start with Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a last-click system primarily, and so when you're looking at a product that might have a longer time to purchase, we're a B2B product, it's going to not be something, people aren't necessarily going to show up and purchase their logo the same day. You're going to lose a lot of that source attribution, so a lot of people fall into your direct sources. And so you want to be able to really understand what your first click attribution is, where are people initially finding out about you, then what are those assisting clicks that help them get there, and then what's the last click that sends them over the edge. Excuse me, there are tools that you can purchase that will help you do this. We chose to build it ourselves. And yeah, we have an amazing engineer named Lars who has really spearheaded this and partnered with myself and our online marketing lead. And we've built this system that really helps us to say, okay, from the first click all the way down to the end when they buy, where are they coming from? And I got to say, it's really eye-opening because it completely changes the way you do business. I knew this would happen because of all the work I did at Zeusk and all the learnings we got there. But I think for every business, getting a handle on your data early is key. There are products you can buy, as I said, that can help you if you can't do this yourself. I haven't actually used any of them because we built our own internal.
Jealous.
But the good thing about building internally is you get to control the data. But one, there's a couple products that I've heard recommended. I've heard Good Data is a good product. So I've heard some people have used that as a good starting point. And then I think another one we used initially was RJ Metrics, which allows you to basically take your data from your database and then they pop it into a web interface. And both of those are useful products. But in the end, I think you really want to get to this point where you understand the initial sources of traffic, because that's really key to understanding your ROI on your spend, or the success of things like PR efforts, which are very hard to track because you're not hitting someone in the purchase cycle. You're hitting someone who's reading about you, is interested about you, but they may not purchase for 5 months. You want to attribute back that, wow, it is worth it that we're doing a ton of PR and reaching out, because that actually does drive sales for us.
Yeah, tell me about that kind of in-house product that you guys built a little bit. I know the engineering behind it is probably really complex, but what is the screen you're actually looking at? Like when you wake up and you're trying to make good decisions, are you looking at 3 metrics? Are you looking at this mass of numbers and you have to like decipher them? Like how simple or how complex is that screen that you're actually looking at?
Right now, so it's evolving, and we are actually building a series of reports that will be accessible by all the teams via web interfaces. So the end goal is that all people across the organization at whatever level can access these tools. We're not quite there yet. We run SQL queries ourselves off of this data, and then we build our own pivot tables. Depending on how simple that query is how much data you're going to have. It can be as complex as you want it to be. We've built some standard reports off of those. You're pulling that data in. You might want to look at the source cross-referenced against your gross profit, how long it's taking them, what's the lag from time visited to time paid, et cetera, et cetera. There is a ton of data. As much data.
You can make it as complex as you want.
Exactly. But the end goal is, you don't want every junior marketer in every country to have to run SQL queries because it's a bad use of their time. You want the data to be actionable. So our big focus right now is to take that data and make it something that's easy to access by everyone. We're about 3/4 of the way there, and that's already really helpful. But the next step is to make it, you push a button, it refreshes for you, you know how you're doing, and take action based on that. That's probably a few more months.
Yeah. So you've mentioned the word actionable and taking action a few times here. What kind of things are you learning from the data right now? Maybe what's surprising about the data, or what's exactly what you expected? What are you taking away from the data, right now in your current role there?
What's been really helpful for us is first of all, in the paid media side of things, one of the great things about 99 Designs is it has really strong word of mouth. You've probably heard this or known in the tech industry. A lot of our growth has come from people in the startup community really helping spread the word about us because we really help them source graphic design. But as we've grown, we are doing more paid media. And the great thing about this attribution system is it really allows us to get beyond sort of the unfortunate tools provided by some of the larger, not unfortunate, but the limitations of the tools provided by Google and other providers. So I'll give just an example, is Google AdWords. There's a couple of issues there. So it's a 30-day cookie. And so a lot of people are not buying before 30 days. You lose that attribution. They're now trying to extend that, but it's not perfect. It's not cohort-based. So by cohort, I mean, we bought this much media in the month of September. How are those people doing over time? Well, with Google, you sort of lose them. And so you don't really know. What we've really been able to determine is build ROI curves and say, well, now we know by day 10, if we've recovered this much of our money we spent by day 10, we've got enough curves from every month that we've been running to say, oh, by day 100, we're going to recover all our money, or by day 200, we're going to recover a lot more of our money, which allows us to spend much more smartly. And so that's one area that has been really helpful. The other area is just with all of our efforts around that are harder to track. So we do a lot of business partnerships. We do a lot of kind of smaller affiliate deals. We do a lot of PR. We're kind of a PR machine. You might see us, I hope. I hope you've read or seen us.
Tell me about those two things. Tell me about the partnerships and how that works and how that drives traffic. And then tell me about the PR. Because the people watching this, they want to know, like, okay, I want to build partnerships. How do I be like Jeff?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, for partnerships, partnerships are challenging. And I think you need your partners to be in line with you. So first of all, I think setting expectations with partnerships is really key. That I've been doing this a long time, and oftentimes you come into these partnerships and companies are saying, oh my goodness, we're going to get 10% of your users to convert, and it's going to be so great, and we're all going to be rich. And it's really not the reality of that. But what you can do is partner with people who are in a complementary business to yours, and you can cross-promote and do offerings to each other's audiences. And it's a nice way to get the word out, and it's a nice way to build brand awareness, and it's a nice way to get some sales. Yeah. But I think you want to set that kind of expectation. Every once in a while, you might get that huge partnership. I've seen it at other companies. You get that huge partnership that drives everything. But the realities are that it's really more about, it's a nice supplement to your business. It's not necessarily going to be a game changer. Now, that's not true of all companies. I've definitely seen companies that, a partnership has been like the game changer for them. They end up integrated into something within Microsoft, So, but, and that really helps. Those are really hard partnerships to do. Big companies move incredibly slowly. And oftentimes, they change. The person you're contact at these large companies changes 5 times in the year and a half when you're trying to do it. Yeah. So we put effort into those, and we do have partnerships with some larger companies like Intuit, which are great. But we do not. But you just have to set expectations for yourself. Totally. No, great.
And you mentioned cross promotion in there with those partnerships. Is that the main thing you're doing with them? Is just, look, we're gonna push some of your stuff to our audience. You're gonna push some of our stuff to your audience, and then we just kind of see what happens. Is that the bottom line of it, or?
I think most of the time in all the places I've worked, that's been a lot of the partnership opportunities. Is we're helping provide an extra service to your users that they wouldn't get. So sometimes it's one-sided because there's really no cross back. Other times it is more integrated, and it's really back and forth, and we're helping kind of grow these audiences together.
Yeah. Now tell me about the PR thing as well. What are you guys doing to kind of drive PR there?
Well, we're in the lucky situation that we have really cool content. I mean, for me, I think that PR is all about sharing stories. I started my career as a journalist, and so I always want to keep up keep that in the back of my mind. PR, you have to be telling a story to a journalist that would be useful to their users, right? Gotcha. And so I don't want to do stories that are sort of BS. And we all try them and they don't work. The realities are, you want to say, what is useful to their users? So first of all, when we look at PR campaigns, what we want to look at is, where do we want to be? So, we want to be in publications where people who want to use our services are. And that's a variety of publications. So we do things like, we take our content. We have amazing content because it's so visual, it's so beautiful. We can do awesome contests. We can showcase contests, and we can have people cover those contests. We had a great contest I can tell you about. So I don't know if you know Bon Iver. I don't know if you're a music person.
I don't, but you can explain it to me.
So I didn't either, so don't feel bad about yourself. So Bon Iver is a well-known singer with a very large female audience. He's been on SNL. He's done a total, he's very big if you know him. Yeah. Dedicated following. He ran a tattoo design contest on our website for a new tattoo he wanted to get. He's got what we did is we contacted him. We said, hey, this is really cool. Like, your users would want to participate in this, right? I mean, your fans, these musicians have rabid fan bases. And so we pitched out to the music publications, and we got literally a ton of coverage all over the world. So we got coverage in Spin, Pitchfork, Rolling Stone, because it was cool, right? I mean, it's something that's kind of a fun story that's cool. And that was really helpful. We got, we were able to track both the visits, the sales, and everything. It was also really great for the designer. The winning designer was this really amazing artist from Italy, and we pitched in Italy as well. We have an Italian country manager, and he got tons of press and became like a mini celebrity for a little while there in Italy, which was really cool. I mean, our big goal is to build the connections between our designers and clients. That's our mission. And it's always really nice when we get a designer and really make their day, make their world. So that's an example of a broader consumer thing. We also do things. I mean, we're an amazing tool for startups and small businesses. So we have been in every small business entrepreneurial pub out there. Our founder, Matt Mikiewicz, is an amazing speaker and has been in a lot. Our CEO, Patrick Llewellyn, is interviewed constantly around the world. So we make sure we're in those business and technology pubs as well.
Yeah. You mentioned kind of being in Pitchfork and being in Source and all these different things. Is that the biggest kind of non-repeatable thing you guys have done to drive growth? Or is there any other things that have actually driven more growth that you couldn't really repeat?
Yeah, I mean, I saw that question. Yeah, so essentially, I mean, that's a good example of something that's non-repeatable. And it's interesting because I tend not to like non-repeatable things.
Yeah, most marketers don't. Yeah.
So because when looking back at Zeus, one of the things that was sort of a mantra there was scalable and repeatable. Are things scalable and repeatable? And that's something that I've seen at everywhere I've worked when we've done things successfully. And so I tend to like things that can be repeated because one-offs are expensive in terms of human resources, time, technology involvement, and challenging. And it's a bit of a risk because
they may not work.
Yeah. So that Bon Iver is something that that did very well, and it is to a certain extent repeatable because we can find other content that we can pitch. That's cool.
Absolutely. So what are some things that you guys are going to be trying maybe in the near future? You've told us some of the things you've been doing with PR and some of the paid marketing. What's on the horizon for you guys?
Yeah. So right now we are in the middle of major international expansion, and that's something that's really exciting for any company. I think we started in Australia. This brand started in Australia. It spun out of a site called SitePoint. Then it moved to the U.S. We still have a large Australian company, and since then we opened a third office. We bought a company called 12 Designer in Berlin, and that was last year. And since then, we've been rolling out 99 designs in different languages to help better service our customers and our designers. So we rolled out in German, French, Italian. We're in Spanish now as of a couple weeks ago. And that's been really exciting. And we have really seen a lot of growth there. And what we're trying to do there is replicate a lot of the learnings we've had in our English language markets, but also learn how those markets are very different. It's a challenge for a two-sided marketplace to be offered in different languages. So we've always been in English, and English is the international language of business, right? So when you have a brief that a customer is writing, and then you have a designer can service that brief. A lot of people in the world speak English, even if it's a second language for them. That works pretty well. When you suddenly have someone in a language that isn't spoken as much, like Italian, that becomes a little bit more challenging. So we have to build the marketplace of designers up in those markets. So far, so good. We have a lot of designers. We have over 200,000 designers, 215,000 designers, I think, at this point.
Wow.
So we have enough to service everywhere, but we also want to grow there as well. In terms of other things, so we're really broadening our product offering. To our goal here is, we want to help small businesses, startups, people who need graphic design, source amazing, great graphic design in a whole variety of ways. And I'm not going to tell you exactly what we're doing. Sorry, I'm not allowed. Our CEO would don't. But we are working on some products that will really help that. And that's really exciting for us. Help you source graphic design and help you connect with our amazing graphic design community.
Yeah. Well, you guys are doing a lot of logos now, so I'm assuming you're doing websites in the near future here. So that's cool.
Well, we do offer everything already. So we offer all different kinds of design. I mean, we're known, right, logos. We are known as the best place to get your logo when you're a startup, and that's great. We have a lot of marketing collateral. Sort of our business and advertising is a really fast-growing category for us. we're seeing a lot of agencies, marketing agencies, ad agencies, that are using us to source this kind of collateral for their clients, ad banners, landing pages, email designs, infographics, etc. And that's something that we're building a lot of tools to support them as well. Because they're a different kind of client than a startup client. And so we want to be able to help them do a better job. You know, it's a lot of collaboration and kind of workflow tools, excuse me, to help them really do their job efficiently and help get the designers a lot of great freelance work.
No, that's great. Well, thanks for telling us so much about kind of 99 Designs and the growth of it and what you guys are doing there. You know, when I was browsing around online, I noticed there was a place where you offered a call to people if they were, you know, wanting to kind of consult with you, and you would show them how to set up, structure, and optimize a successful marketing program. And so I know you're not going to go into all the details of that right now. They can, you know, they can schedule the call if they want that. But what are some of the fundamentals of a successful marketing campaign? I'm sure it would be some of what you've already told us, but at a really high level, kind of philosophically, what are the fundamentals of a successful marketing campaign in what you teach in that call?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's a company called Maestro Market. It's I'm doing that for charity. All money goes to charity if anyone wants to call me.
Perfect.
And that's, that essentially, like at a top, as you said, I'm not going to go into like super detail here, but I can talk about what we think about when we structure any marketing campaign. Really at the top level, we want to understand who our user is. I know that sounds ridiculously simple, but you'd be shocked at how many marketers just sort of miss the point on that. So we want to say, who is this audience we're trying to reach? What is our unique selling proposition for them? What is the value to this user? You see a lot of marketing campaigns where people lead with product feature sets, and we've all done it. We've all made those mistakes. I certainly have. I throw myself on the sort of mistakes I've made doing the same thing. But what you really want to answer is, like, why do they care? I mean, I know that's pretty basic, but again, start with that. If you can't answer that question, you don't have a marketing campaign. So you want to know who that user is. Let's say it's, you know, ad agencies. What are we solving for them? Oh, I'm solving their need to source freelance designers quickly and efficiently, solve a variety of pain points. Then we run a campaign. Then we say, how do we reach those users? Cost effectively, right? Because, you know, what you can do is a really expensive media buy, but we, you know, we're, like many companies, we're very bottom line focused. We're very ROI focused. The dollars we spend have to be returned. So we look and we say, where are the places we can reach those users, both through paid media and non-paid media? And then we build campaigns around that. So we're going to say, okay, well, with paid media, we can reach them through these channels. These are how they're going to be the most cost-effective channels. With PR, we love PR, right? Because it's free to a certain extent if you can get it. So we say, what are the publications these users are reading? How can we tell a story that the journalist or the editor, whoever we're pitching, is going to get excited about? Usually those journalists are trying to think about the audience. You know, it's a journal that shares the audience you're trying to reach, and they think like those people because that's who their audience is, and they're often former people from those audiences. So you pitch a story that's tells them how you're solving that. Is this? I don't know if
this is great. I mean, it's great because it's simple. I mean, we're answering some very fundamental question: who is the audience? Why do they care? And then just letting those inform what you do next. That informs your ad buys. That informs your PR. That informs, you know, whatever you do from that point. And that'll change your language. That'll change your channels. That'll change everything about whatever campaign you pick. But you're so right, though. If you're off even 1 degree in the earliest, you know, a point of the campaign, then you're off 100 degrees by the time it's moved forward. So you have to really nail down who the audience is and why they care.
I think a big deal I think a thing that particularly in the age of internet, you know, with huge numbers of traffic and people saying, aha, I did this viral campaign and I got X billion users to come to my site. What marketers sort of learn over the long term is that quality is much more important than quantity in almost every business.
Tell me about that. What do you mean when you say that?
Well, because not all traffic sources are created equal. In fact, they're created very unequal. So A lot of the viral strategies that you saw, like in the early days of social networking, where people were doing email invites, where they sort of tricked you into inviting your entire audience from your Gmail account. If you actually analyze the data on those, there are a lot of negatives to some of those kind of campaigns because you're getting the wrong audience. First of all, you're annoying people. You're not answering any of those questions. You're sort of trying to trick people into coming to your site. It's very low quality. Similar thing with a lot of the kind of viral apps that were on Facebook. You know, all these cutesy quiz apps that the traffic quality from those apps is really often very low because it's just random people. And random people don't mean purchasing people, right? So what you really want to understand is, who are the people who are going to buy my service, right? Who are going to find value from my service? And I think that can be a needle in a haystack for depending on the business you're in. It can be broader, right? And how valuable are those people to me over time? So the more data you can look at and say, when you're doing a campaign, if you have data where you can look at your current audience, not always available for startups, right? But you can look at your current audience and you can say, well, wow, I know that this type of audience, this subsegment of my audience is much more valuable to me than this other subsegment. So I can really pour more money and pour more effort and pour more time into reaching these kind of people because they have a higher lifetime value to me. They churn less, they recommend more, all of those things. So really understanding that audience, the quality of that audience is key. I see so many people get really excited about things like, I got 4,000 retweets, you know, and again, nothing wrong with that. I value, I'm not a huge Twitter user, I have to admit. I've got too much going on, but
same here.
I think, you know, there is value in that kind of social sharing, but it's not as quantifiable as value. And those users you're reaching a broad audience who's not necessarily in the market for what you want.
No, I think it's a great point. You know, at the high level, that all traffic is not created equal, and then even using Twitter as an example, that I've done enough campaigns that I've tracked that I know the ROI, and somebody could tweet about me with millions of followers, and I'll get 5 signups, and then someone else with 5,000 followers tweets about me, and I get 30 signups. Like, I've literally seen those two things happen, and I'm like, what is going on? It's because the guy with 5,000 followers, they were the right followers. He was in my market. He was really, you know, the people following him would have also liked to have known what I was about. And so it's just amazing how you would assume one of those is the big win and it was the other one, you know, for whatever reason.
Exactly. I think, and you'll see this like in the, I don't know, a lot of affiliates will drive a lot of really poor quality traffic, and you really have to watch that and learn. If you do a lot of affiliate marketing, which is sort of the dark gray underbelly of the marketing world, you have to really understand these traffic sources and really understand what kind of quality you're getting, because it can actually almost have a negative impact on your brand to be getting a lot of junk traffic. Whereas other affiliates might drive you, same thing. It's, you know, they drive you 100 clicks a month and 10 of them purchase because they're literally the perfect audience. They're people in the market for you. They almost perform like an SEM campaign, which is amazing. So yeah, quality over quantity always.
Absolutely. Now I have to ask you about this. One of the other companies you worked at, simply because our audience is very much you know, in the know of lean methodology and those kind of things. You were actually at ImView. And ImView, for people that don't know, is one of the famous case studies of Eric Ries's, you know, lean methodology, lean startups. He was the founder or co-founder of ImView. Did Eric begin to teach his views there, or was he just floundering, drowning like everyone else, and then kind of looking back, it makes sense? What was it like when you're actually with him there?
So Eric was on the board when I was there. He had already transitioned out of a full-time role, but was still heavily involved. And Steve Blank, who's sort of also famous in this world, was on the board as well. I would say their methodology was sort of inherent to ImView's culture. This is a very engineering-driven company, no surprise. Their current CEO is their former VP of engineering, Brett Durrett, and this company was heavily focused on product and engineering because it was founded by Eric and the other guy. it wasn't so formal then. I mean, Eric has really evolved that methodology and made a big business and a big educational series out of that. We love Eric. We're friends with him here at 99 Designs. But you'd see that in the work that InView did. So we did continual deployment. I mean, their deployments were constant. It was a very experimental culture. It was test, learn, evolve, test, learn, evolve, continuously get the minimum viable product up, out, go, and done. So all of that was really an exciting thing to see because this was a bunch of years back, and when I was there, you know, a lot of companies were just starting to do this kind of work, and a lot were still doing kind of waterfall development where they do this huge build and then roll it out and say, "Oh no, we just wasted 8 months of development time." InView was the opposite of that, and I think because of that, they had really talented engineering staff, which is always key to your success, right? If you don't have great engineers, we have great engineers here at 99 Designs. If you don't have great engineers, you're in serious trouble. And InView was very strong engineering.
Yeah, what were maybe the one or two takeaways from InView in terms of marketing? Was there just like one thing where you're like, you know what, I learned this from being around Steve Blank, Eric Ries about marketing that I've kind of rolled into everything I've done?
The big thing for InView was that InView had a challenge in that, it's a 3D virtual world, which is a niche, right? I mean, frankly, to a certain extent. But it's also, there's a big opportunity there, which is the people who used InView were heavily engaged. So we learned to leverage those engaged users in a way. They really spread the word, because when you're in a market like that, as opposed to a big broad dating market like Zoosk, where there's as I mentioned, everyone kind of needs dating who's not in a relationship. InViews are very kind of specialized kind of user. It's somebody who wants to participate in an alternative reality, right? And so reaching those people could be somewhat challenging, but leveraging the people who are in that community to spread the word was useful. Also, we had people in that community who were worth just an absolute fortune to the company. So really, again, it gets back to some of that. I really learned a lot about this quality over quantity there, because we had users there who were spending tens of thousands of dollars versus, you could get a teenage user who's doing nothing. So that was a big thing. The other thing was just, again, the testing methodology was great to see in action, and I think it's now ubiquitous. I think now every successful startup uses that methodology. There's lots of tools around now that weren't around then, that allow you to do really great testing very quickly. But to see that kind of in action as a marketer, to be able to split test things, get things out the door, learn what's working, what's not, and then move forward was great.
That's awesome. This has been a great interview, Jeff. Let me ask you one last kind of final high-level question, and you can take it any direction you want. You've been in this business for a little while now. Knowing everything you know, how would you spend your days if you were at a startup trying to acquire new users, and maybe you didn't have a large budget for paid? You might have a small budget for paid, How would you be spending your days? You wake up, you pour your coffee, you set your computer. What do you do next?
Yeah.
The $1 million question.
You get to work. No, that is the hardest. I think when you look at companies, it's really important to know that it's the first, 1,000, 10,000 users that are the hardest to acquire, right? Because you're sitting there and you have no one to talk about what you're doing. So first of all, I would say it really depends on the business that you're in. So what you want to do is find people who will love your service and get the word out to them and leverage them to your advantage. Right. Because, as I said, scalable and repeatable. So if you're in B2B, what you can do and what people at 99 did, they didn't have any budgets to start. They got out there and they literally worked the streets. They worked the meetups. They worked the accelerator groups. They worked the conferences, and they, it wasn't essentially selling door to door, but it was building awareness with a community of influencers who could then spread the word for them. So I think that's kind of the key to what I'm trying to say is no matter what, get the people who can influence, get them excited about your product, and then get them to do it. Now, you can do that with the kind of good old-fashioned word of mouth, they tell people at a party about your service. I've seen this with 99 Designs. We do trade shows and conferences all the time now, and I literally see people standing outside of our booth showing the design they got on their iPad to another person. It's really exciting to see that, right? Because it's literally word of mouth in action. In the early days, this is before I was here, they did this. They were on every single possible little PR thing they could do. They were out there just, again, every night at every event. If you're in consumer, I think you might be a little bit luckier. I think consumer has potential for more online sharing just because it's broader. And so I would say experiment with sharing and social referral. I like referral programs. Again, it's quantity over quality. And so I'm sorry, I said that backwards. My CEO just peeked into me and I lost my train of thought.
That's what happens.
Quality over quantity. So, but again, you don't want people just spamming out your stuff because that actually just annoys people. What you want is to do an offer that gets people excited to share your product, makes them feel good about sharing your product, and gets them to share that product with the right people. I would say like a good example of this, using somewhere I haven't worked, but where I'm actually personally kind of a little obsessed with, is Guilt. I'm a discount. I like high-end brands, but I don't like to pay for them. So with Guilt, Guilt did a lot of really great work in the early days of essentially having this closed community idea, and they got invites going, and they incented people to invite their friends. I don't know if you've ever used Guilt, but essentially...
I've read their book actually as well, the Invitation by Invitation, I think it's called, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And experiment with these kind of things. So yeah, so what Guilt did was it was like a closed community. You could only get in by being invited, which was scarcity model, right? People get excited, they want to be part of it because they can't be part of it.
Absolutely.
But then what they're really doing is they're incenting people to invite their friends by giving them credits or discounts if they do. And so what I would see is when I got invited to Guilt was a friend of mine, and I was curious why he was so excited to give me an invite. I didn't realize he was getting $25 or whatever it was to do it. I thought he was just being a really nice guy. And I got the invite, and then I was in, and then you realize how that whole mechanism works, and that was a huge growth strategy for Guilt. All of those kind of referral systems, you have to test them, and you have to not give up because they are... There are subtle changes you can make that can kind of make or break the referral program. Like I would argue that one of Guilt's success points there was the scarcity model of having it closed up front. And that was maybe a risk because there might be a lot of marketers who say like, well, just have it open. It's exciting. More and more people will join, more and more people will join. But I am sure they test. You read the book. I haven't read the book, but I've seen with like referral systems, getting those users who are kind of early adopters to share, that there's subtle things you can do. Like, is email a better sharing mechanism or Facebook? If you have to test that, and if you learn that email is, well, then you should push them to do email more because they're more likely to get people who are going to come to your site. It might be the opposite for your brand. Every brand is different, right? So you go in, you go on with your hypothesis, you put up that referral system, and then you say, oh, that's not working at all. Like failure is part of every marketer's daily life. And then you say, well, let me tweak it. Oh, I tweaked it, and all of a sudden they're all sharing, and I'm getting more, et cetera, down the line. So that's a good way to do it for free.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's awesome. Well, Jeff, this has been an incredible interview. We've covered so many different topics, and you've given us such actionable advice on so many of these things. I know you're a busy guy at 99 Designs. It's a company that's growing fast, and they're lucky to have somebody like you heading up the marketing. So thanks again for coming on the program.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.